Hi everyone. Today's an interesting problem that got sent to me, and someone asked me how I could make a bucket on the front of a digger or a tractor or something like that. And since it's being manually made, it's not mass produced or anything like that, it's going to be made out of sheet metal. So they're going to cut the sheets up and then put it onto a plasma cutter and cut the shapes out and then weld it all together. And this is the basic shape that they want, and as you can see, it's not exactly square, and they want it to look like that. So we're going to try and end up with something looking like this out of sheet metal, and I'll come to this line down the middle a bit later on, and also I will show you that I've actually developed the whole lot, so you go from the top all the way around in sheet metal. So how do I do it? Well, it's actually quite simple. I asked them to give me the dimensions, and then I built the part in the solid. This one has the shelling in put on it just to show you what we're trying to achieve. So let me just go into the shell and delete that. So it's a very simple part. He gave me the extrusion dimensions, and then I just trimmed off the two sides. Okay, now what is really interesting, it's actually easier to see on this one, is that if I was to look at the front of this, you can see that it comes in down at the sides, but also it comes in sweeping forward. So if you look down this view here, you can see that it is also sweeping inwards like this. Okay, so if I was to do this within sheet metal, it would require an awful lot of time and effort to try and cut the edges out and things like that, because nothing's planar. There's a lot of flapping around to get the right information what you want. But fortunately, within IronCAD, this is a real breeze to do, because all you need to do is just make the solid part, as like I said to you, with an extrude and the two cuts, and that's the shape. Now, what I need to do is now convert this solid part into a sheet metal part, and I want to do it in this manner. I want the base to be all the way around the front, all the way around the back, including the top in this, and the two sides to be separate as well, because obviously they're going to be welded up. Okay, so how can I go about doing this? It's actually quite easy. Within IronCAD, we have some tools in there to enable us to do this. We have create a solid flat pattern from a sheet metal or a solid part, and the same with create a solid part into a sheet metal, and then you just specify the bend lines and cuts, etc. But this won't really help us with that, because this is really not a planar model. It's actually on angles on both shaping forward and also going back. So we have this thing called convert to sheet metal part. Now that takes a part. So if I'll show you on this, and you'll see what I mean. If I click on convert to sheet metal, if I pick this part here, it's only saying that I'm going to convert that stock. It's got nothing to grow to, because this edge here, it sees that as not a continuous edge. It treats it as a discontinuous edge, so therefore it can't grow that part round. And the same on the front. Well, on the front of this bucket that I was sent, they actually wanted a radius at that point there, and they also want a radius at that point there. So if I can actually pick this edge, rotate round, and then hold the shift key and pick that edge, I can then put a blend on that, and I can make that blend 10 millimeters. Press tab, and I can say done on this one. Or actually, I really want to blend that one as well, because like I said to you, that line, you won't see that as a continuous line. So if I put that one on there, 10 mil is not really going to cut it. I can do, but it seems very, very small. What you might want to do is make that, say, 100 or something like that. It would still work with 10 mil, but I just think it looks a lot smoother, and I say okay. and there I've got a nice smooth surface. So if I pick on this convert to sheet metal part again, and I pick on that edge, now you can see the green bit says, well, I can actually generate the flat, the sheet metal on those parts there where it's green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, yeah, I like that. I'm going to change the start. It picks up the standard stock size. I can change it in the stock size, or I can specify a custom thickness. And I think he wants 8 mil all the way around. And this virtual number of virtual bend lines, if I grow this out, you can see what that means. Bend lines is 10. It means that on this curve here, we'll have 10 bend lines there, so make it quite a nice smooth transition as it goes all the way around. And I want to offset it by 8 millimeters, which is the thickness of the plate, because I want the when I grow the size, I want the two edges to join together, so I've got a nice V to do a weld. So just say OK, and there you can see I have the part. Now the way that IronCAD works is if it takes a solid and converts it to sheet metal, it suppresses it because it says I've done my work. You don't need that anymore, which is in this case not true. I do need it. So let me unsuppress that again, and there you can see it's actually grown on the outside of that the solid that I was working with. Well, how do we do the next bits then? Well, let's do the sides. Okay, so let's pick on that, and then I'm just going to hide that for the moment so we can see what we're working on. And I will then pick that face, and I will then create and extrude from that face, and I'm going to grow it a distance of 8 millimeters out. I say OK, and there I've got that part on the outside. Okay, that's looks like I'm done. But if you remember when we went back to the original bucket, he had a line down there, and if I zoom in here, you can see there's a different thickness. Now that's 12 mil there and 8 mil there, because obviously the front gets a lot more bashing, a lot more stress, and a lot more bending moments on it. So therefore, you want a thicker part there. You want to weld that those two together. So if I go back to the part here, I need to put a split line down there, and so I can grow one side at 12 and those two would join up together. How can we do that? Well, I can either split the solid, but there's actually a quicker way. Is if I copy it and then paste it, I can then go back to the first extrude. I'm going to edit the cross section, and that gives me the outside. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a curve down here, which you can be very precise if you've got all that information. It has to follow a set rules or something, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to do a 3-point curve. So I'm going to pick an arbitrary point on the top edge there and an arbitrary point down there. I could even pick the halfway mark if need be. Let's do that for a change. And then I'm just going to move it to what I think looks quite nice. I'll put it on there. So if I make that, say, 700, that gives me a nice curve. Now obviously I only want 1/2, so I can now so if I delete some of these curves up here, whoops, if I turn them off, I delete some of these curves up here, then I can you just have 1/2 and extrude it. But the best way to do that is to trim it off. Just take those and say finish, and that's 1/2 done. So I now just need to select the other half, edit the cross section. I need to match it up to the other surface or extruded surface that I had created earlier. So I just need that line there, which is it's seen from the surface next to it. Just pick that edge and turn that off. So I've now got all that part there. So I just need to just delete all of this here. Once again, trim it all off. Say finish. But that's still stuck at 8 millimeters, so that's no worries. If I go into here, if If I then click on Edit Feature Options, I can now make that 12 mil. And there you can see I've got my basic shape. So if I show everything again and I just really hide this one here, you see I've got really half the bucket on one side. I just need that on the other side. Now that's really, really easy within IronCAD. But before I do that, I just wanted to zoom in and show you, look, it's got a nice butt up joint, so you can actually then weld it quite nicely together. So within IronCAD, you want something on the other side. It's just very simple. You just pick on that part there, turn on the tri-ball, and I'm going to unlock the tri-ball and move it to the center of this bucket here so that I can then mirror it across. Okay, so I unlock the tri-ball, which is white, but because it's in line with the surface, it's not going to be quite right. So I need to just realign the tri-ball to the global positioning. So reset the tri-ball to global. I'm going to pick it on that axis and say, stay on that axis. And I want to go to the midpoint of that edge. Relock the tri-ball and say, now I want to mirror, copy, turn off the tri-ball. And there you can see I've created that part. And just to prove that the bottom part is a sheet metal, I can actually unfold that and I can rotate that round, and there you can see that is the shape, and you've got all the bend lines. You can put that into a drawing and give you the bend line dimensions, the radiuses, bend directions, etc. And you can see that obviously if I tried to develop that within using sheet metal, it would be a bit complicated. But so this is a much easier and much quicker way of doing that. So I refold that back, and there you can see I've created quite a reasonably hard bucket to make in just a few moments. So I hope you found this video useful. If you have any comments, put them in the comment section under the video, or even email me, Bob Gilliver, or just Bob at Athena-horizons.co.uk, and my name is Bob Gilliver, and you should be in, and I'll get back to you with try and answer any of your questions. I hope you found this useful, and enjoy.